Oh yes, I was observed by medical students when I was born.
I don't recall any stories that they would have said about my actual birth, no.
What do you remember about your childhood?
What do I remember about my childhood? Lots of things. I remember going to Temple Beth Israel and trying to learn Hebrew, and then switching to Temple Concord. What? Speak louder.
Yeah.
And I remember going to George Washington School, and that's where your dad actually went for a couple of years, and living on Hillsborough Parkway in Syracuse.
Done.
And when I went to school, there were mostly Jewish kids in the school, which is very different from now.
My childhood was very active, very busy. There were 4 children in our family, so there was a pretty active household. Played a lot of sports, and also, like your Anna said, that going through school, mostly Jewish kids, even though it was the local public school system.
It's about 80%, wasn't it, Lisa?
Where did you go to school? Did you finish school? If not, what were the reasons?
Dylan, you have to speak up because I cannot hear you at all.
Where did you go to school? Did you finish school? If not, what are the reasons?
I went to high school in Syracuse and finished, yes. I graduated from Nottingham High School. I graduated from Syracuse University, and then later on, graduate school at the University of Rochester.
See, I also went to Nottingham High School, which I finished, and I went to college at Penn State and then Syracuse University, and then I did my graduate work at Upstate Medical Center.
So once I get it set up, whatever, pretty soon, I'll call you and give you a number to call.
Did you attend religious school when you were a kid? If yes, what was your experience?
Yes, I attended 2 religious schools. One was Temple Beth Israel, which was an Orthodox school, and then we went to Temple Concord, and I had a very good experience there. I really loved Temple Concord, and I was confirmed at the age of 16, but I did not have a bat mitzvah, because most girls at that time did not have bat mitzvahs. It's mostly boys having bar mitzvahs.
Yes, I went to religious school in Syracuse, and actually our religious school was held at the Jewish Community Center in Syracuse. It was part of the temple, but the Jewish Community Center was a lot closer to school, so everyone used to go there, after regular school. And was there a second part?
What was your experience?
Oh, well, the experience was like everyone else's. It went for a certain amount of time, once a week after school, and then on Sunday, and through bar mitzvah, took bar mitzvah lessons there, and the experience was okay. It was interesting.
Did you have brothers or sisters? If yes, what are they like?
Who wants to start this one?
I have one brother older and 2 sisters younger. And since we're taping this, I can't put it on record what they were like. No. But that's all. So.
All right, and here is my brother at his bar mitzvah, Uncle Steve, who you know, so you know what he's like. And actually, he and I are very close. We like to hike together in the summer in Vermont. And this is my sister, Aunt Susie, sometimes known as Aunt Snoozy. And she is a lot of fun, and she and I go hiking and kayaking, and I'm very close with her as well. But we used to fight terribly when we were growing up.
Did you say like us?
Yeah. Like us. When and where were your parents born? What did they look like? What was their occupation?
Both my parents were born in Syracuse. My father was in the meat packing wholesale business, and for a long time my mother didn't work, but when she did, she went to work at a local school, working in the school cafeteria.
I can show a picture of her.
And that is my mom, and that's also a picture of you, Ellen.
When was that picture taken?
The picture was taken at your Aunt Shayna and Uncle Rob's wedding 5 years ago,
2003.
summer 2003.
And my dad, your great-grandpa Phillips, who is shown here in his young and handsome years. That's your great-grandpa. He is a surveyor, and he has been a surveyor for probably 50 years, at least. He is still working full-time. And your great-grandma Phillips, who is shown here, was a homemaker, and she passed away in 2001.
She did a lot of volunteer work.
She did volunteer work. She's an artist. A lot of the paintings that we have hanging around the house. And actually, your grandpa has a painting in his house as well. And you guys have a painting that was done by grandpa. Yeah. The panda bear. Yeah, and there should be a Noah's Ark picture too. Yeah. And she liked to eat.
And listen to Myron Cohn.
Did your parents tell you how they met?
Yes, my parents were fixed up on a blind date by a man named Dick Shafter. Yes, that's how they met.
I also believe that my parents were introduced by another person that they knew. Who that person was, I don't recall. Back in those days, the way people met and went out with each other was certainly quite different than today. But I think that they were introduced by a person that they both knew.
Are your grandparents still alive?
Is that for us or for them?
Oh, it's probably for us.
Well, no. My grandparents are not alive. They passed away many, many years ago. And they all lived in Syracuse, New York. My grandfather on my father's side actually died. I never knew him. He died long before I was even born.
Were they?
Speak up.
Do you remember your grandparents? Do you recall any stories about them? What did they look like?
Well, I do remember the three grandparents that I knew. My father's mother was a very, I would say, very, very gregarious. She had a large family, as most of the families in those days were very large.
That's Bubby Davis.
Was, yes. Lived close to us, and most of the families back in those days lived close to each other. And my mother's parents actually lived upstairs from us when I was growing up until about 5th or 6th grade. So I saw them every day. And then when we all finally moved out of that house, we didn't live too far from each other after that either. so I used to see them quite frequently. And both sides of my parents' were actually in what I would say is kind of like the meat business. My father's family owned a farm and also had a meat market. They sold meat. I could go into the store today to buy meat. And my mother's father owned a meat packing company.
We'll pass that picture over. My grandmother, Phillips, and that is her. She had a sort of a wicked sense of humor, and she used to say, she was a good baker, and she used to say to your grandfather that she would put arsenic in his pie. Remember that?
Yeah, very much. Which is why I never ate any of her baked goods.
And so she had a kind of a sharp tongue, but a very smart lady, and I don't remember her husband, my grandfather. And then my grandmother, this lady, she was a very kind lady. Her name is Grandma Frances. That's who your father is named after, Ephraim is his Hebrew name. She was a very kind lady and always made me feel good about myself.
Did your father's father die before you were born?
No, I believe that he died when I was 2, but I get them mixed up. It was either this grandfather or the other one. So I never really knew either of my grandfathers. I'm very lucky because you're lucky to have your grandpa and Rich, your other grandpa. That's great. Pappy.
Did you hear stories about your grandparents? Did you ever meet your grandparents?
No, I think we just covered that, sort of. Yeah, we covered that. Now, your great grandfather, he used to get hit with a fly swatter by her because he always was misbehaving. So that's a good story. That's a Phillips family story.
When you were a child, who was the oldest person in your family?
Do you mean siblings or parents?
My brother was the oldest of our family. I have one older brother and 2 younger sisters, so it was my brother who was the oldest.
I think that's probably the oldest, I get the sense that's the oldest living relative.
You think?
That's the sense that I get from the question.
Oh.
Well, the oldest living relative in my family when I was growing up would have been either my grandmother on my mother's side. She was actually older than my grandfather, or my grandmother on my father's side. I'm not sure how old or what the difference was, but it would have been one of my grandmas.
So your grandmother on Lillian's side was Bessie Feynman.
Yes.
And the oldest person in my family growing up was, again, my grandma Phillips, and she lived to be 95.
Is that Esther?
Esther, Grandma Esther Phillips.
When you were a child, did any relatives other than your immediate family live with you?
No.
No, none of my relatives lived with us, but as I said,
They hung around a lot.
yeah, they hung around a lot. No, my grandmother and my grandfather and my Aunt Ann, my mother's sister, lived right upstairs from us for a number of years. So we were in both households a lot.
Do you remember who your neighbors were when you were a child?
Yes, somewhat. I can't remember actually who my neighbors were when I lived on Westmoreland, which was when I was kind of like in middle school. But I do remember younger than that because they were a young family that we used to play with. Then in high school, when we lived in Syracuse on Niven Street, I remember who my neighbors were.
Monkey Margolis and family.
One of them, and actually
Rundell.
And Dennis Gunner lived next door to me.
She looks exactly the same as she did when Mrs. Rundell, as when I was a young kid.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. All right. And let's see, we had the Keers on one side and the Whitriols on the other side and the Potters up the street, and the Judas is still there, and they're still family friends when the neighbors when I grew up.
Are we named Jim Tree, Jack?
No.
Do you have Jewish neighbors when you were a child? Did you used to play with them?
Yes, the whole neighborhood pretty much was Jewish, and we used to stage mock weddings. And yes, we played kickball. We had a lot of fun.
When I lived on 9th Street, which would have been at the start of my high school years, pretty much the whole street was Jewish families and Jewish kids. And yeah, we used to hang out, play sports, and socialize.
Did your family have family traditions that were related to the celebration of Jewish holidays or any other occasions?
Well, like most families, on Passover, there'd always be family dinners, Hanukkah, we light the candles, and some of the other traditions, that weren't necessarily tied to Jewish holidays, like Thanksgiving and things. Yes, there were always family get-togethers. My mother's birthday was on New Year's Day, so a lot of times growing up there were kind of parties or celebrations at the house on New Year's Eve, just to celebrate, not only the New Year but her birthday.
We always had a big Seder at Passover, which we celebrated with our cousins, the Riviots. And again, like your grandpa, we had family celebrations for all the holidays, Hanukkah and Thanksgiving, things like that.
Did you or any other members of your family have items, stories, traditions, or physical items that have been handed down to you through several generations of your family?
Old, it's copper, and some menorahs. I have a whole collection of menorahs.
Well, I don't actually have any items from my mother or father. They're pretty much still at my mother's house in Syracuse. I do currently have a desk that belonged to my father. Smaller items, perhaps like menorahs or candlesticks and things like that, are at the house. Maybe my brother and sisters haven't taken them,
Good.
but that's what
I've got 6 left on this one.
I'm only up to the desk.
Oh, that was given to you that was given to you when
Oh,
your
God.
dad passed away.
Yeah.
Beautiful desk.
Yeah, but it's a bone of contention.
The desk. I want to know. Your mother
Off the
specifically
air.
gave that desk to you, and that's, remember that. She wanted you to have it.
Okay, let's see your face there, Don.
Come on, stop fidgeting. Come on, we're almost done.
I'm
At
taping you.
what age did you leave home? Where did you move to?
Oh, now we're getting into the interesting
The good stuff.
questions. I was 20, and I married your grandpa, and we moved to Orchard Estates.
I actually left right after
We did with Rocky Raccoon.
right after I graduated high school. I left, so I would have been like 18.
Dylan, move your arm. I can't see you. That's better.
Did you serve in the military? If yes, what branch of service were you in? What units were you a part of? Did you serve overseas?
Anything, a bar at Alice's restaurant.
I was in the Army National Guard and did my training in New Jersey at Fort Dix, and the unit was based in Syracuse, and used to go to meetings there. But no, I did not go like overseas or anything like that. I was pretty much stateside.
Guarding the home front. That's what it is wrong.
Did you serve in the military?
Oh, no. No way. No, I didn't. Back then, women didn't serve. I'm sure I would have proudly served my country if asked, though.
If drafted.
What is your current occupation? What other occupations did you have in the past? Did you have any special training?
Special training, yes. I'm a professor of anatomy and neurobiology, and yes, I had a lot of training to do that. But I've always been a teacher. I love teaching, and I hope to continue to teach for the rest of my life.
I work for a local school district near Rochester, and I work in the Pupil Services Department as one of the administrators. And before that, before I got into working in schools, which has been for a long time now, I used to be in the vending machine business with some friends of mine, but that was in Syracuse.
Are you married? If yes, how did you meet your spouse?
Why don't we skip that question? Go on to the next one.
Take.
Children, if yes, how old are your children? Do you have any stories about their births?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes, I have 3 children. Your dad, Jeff, is the oldest, and
He is.
Yeah.
You can tell him where you were when you went into labor.
Jeff is 38, and when Nana went into labor, I was actually in a weekend meeting for the National Guard in Watertown, Fort Drum, and came back after I had the notice, and was there in time for when did we go out? In those days,
Smacking on the rear end. They're in time for the smacking on the rear end.
Well, in those days, fathers, I think it might have been just on the verge of fathers going into delivery rooms, and I did not go into the delivery room until his sisters were born. And your dad has a sister, Shana, who is 32. Is it 32 or thereabouts? And she lives near Rochester in a suburb. And your dad's youngest sister, Rachel, is a graduate student at the University of Rochester and also works there in the medical school library. And Rachel is 24.
Still a teenager? Boy. Oh. Let's see. I guess that would be the next one.
Do you know who in the family originally immigrated this country? Where did they come from? Why did they leave their native birth?
Well, both both sets of my grandparents who didn't know each other before they came to this country, came over from different parts of Eastern Europe. My mother's parents, my grandmother on my mother's side came here from Poland, and my grandfather came from Lithuania, and on my father's side, my grandmother came from Germany, and my grandfather, since I'd never really met him, he died before I was born. I can't remember exactly where he came in from, but they all came for the same reason, which was at that time Eastern Europe was being dominated by the Nazis, and it was basically they were fleeing to stay alive. And I actually have a picture of the ship that my grandmother on my father's side came over from Europe when she landed in Ellis Island. They all came through Ellis Island, which is near New York City, by where the Statue of Liberty is.
My grandparents also came from Eastern Europe to escape from, I believe it was really in the early 1900s and late 1800s. So there was a lot of anti-Semitism. It was way before the Nazis, but anyway, they came over also for the same reason, and probably came from the same area that your grandpa's great-grandparents came from. I have to ask you.
You recording?
Okay. I'm asking this question on behalf of Dylan to his dad. Okay. How did you meet Mom?
A recurring theme. I was set up by mutual friends of ours, and we met for the first time at a restaurant.
When and where did you get married? Did you go on a honeymoon? And if so, where?
We got married August 7th, 1994, and it was in the backyard of the Justice of the Peace in Henrietta, New York. After that, we went to the Renaissance Festival, and then we went home and told everybody. We did go on a honeymoon, but not until a year later, and we went to Arizona, where we stayed in Flagstaff for 5 days and spent a day in Sedona and had a very good time. And that's where Mom went to school, and that's why we went there.
Okay, you should do it.
That's it, huh?
Bless you.
Bless you.
That's it?
Do I have children?
Yeah, some of these questions are
Repeat.
clear.
Yeah.
Well, those are for non-Jewish parent.
The ones for, let me see if I can answer any of the ones for non-Jewish parents. Did you know that, I'm assuming this is for Mom,
Yes, it
did
is.
you know that I was Jewish when you met me?
Were you forewarned?
I don't remember. I don't know if she knew or not, or if she found out.
When you guys got married?
Oh, when we got. No, it says when you met.
Oh, okay.
How did your family feel when you told them that Dad was Jewish? I think they were pretty supportive. They weren't really affected that I know of. Did you know Jewish people when you were growing up? I honestly don't remember if Mom knew any Jewish people when she was growing up.
Because her aunt was in Long Island.
Actually, she spent quite a bit of time on Long Island, so chances are she probably knew a Jew or two.
A Jew.
Have you ever been to a synagogue or temple before you met Dad? bar bat mitzvah or a Passover Seder. I'm pretty sure she had not been to a Passover Seder. And as far as bar bat mitzvahs, not sure, but maybe.
She went to Alex's.
But she went to Alex's after she met me. So,
Oh, yeah.
do you know more about Judaism now than you used to? Yes, I would say Mom knows a lot more about Judaism than she used to. She is, or was, the temple librarian. Can you please not do that? The temple librarian, and got to learn quite a bit about Jewish religion. And she goes to all of the family events with us, and so she gets to find out all about the traditions. What part of Jewish tradition do you appreciate the most? I'm going to say the eating is what Mom appreciates the most.
Matzo ball soup.
The matzo ball soup. And the last question, what part do you find the most difficult to understand? Probably, again, I'm answering on Mom's behalf. What? The what?
Talking and writing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The service, which is quite a bit in Hebrew. And that's about it. So, turn it off. We're done.
Oh, yeah, baseball was fun.
Who were the relatives that moved to Cuba?
But we had some, they were actually brothers of my grandfather, Jake and Martin Davis. They were leaving Eastern Europe fleeing from the Nazis. I think before the war had actually started, I'm pretty sure, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to get out. Everybody just got on a boat. They thought that was getting them out of there. And they landed in Havana. They thought they were in New York, because all boats were supposed to go to New York. That's what they thought. And they were in Havana for several months before they realized they weren't in New York. Because people were speaking Spanish. They didn't know. They thought it was English. And there were some other relatives that had landed here in New York. Actually, they wound up going to Syracuse, and they traced back and found out that they had gotten on a boat that went to Havana, so they sent for them, and they eventually came to Syracuse. That's how.
See who needs help.
What is your full name, and do you know why this name was given to you?
Full name is Frederick Ralph Davis, and I really don't know why it was given to me. I really don't know. I know that I was named after a relative of my mother's.
Do you have a Hebrew name?
Bible.
What is your Hebrew?
Bible,
Why?
Ben. I don't know your grandfather's name.
Why was
Or your father's name.
Solomon, whatever the translation in Solomon. Shlomo, probably.
why was it given to you? Or what does it really mean?
You know, in the Jewish religion, you always were named after relatives that passed away. So it was a relative of my mother's. I think it was an uncle of hers that was named after.
What year and where were you born?
He was born in 1946 in Syracuse, New York.
Okay. Do you remember any stories that your parents told you about your birth?
About my birth, I was there.
Do you remember any stories?
No, I can't remember any stories about it.
What do you remember about childhood?
Grew up with 2 sisters and a brother in Syracuse, and pretty busy house, kind of like yours. There were 4 kids in the house. always something going on, and I always found something to do that had to do with sports.
Where did you go to school?
All through my public schooling was in Syracuse. Graduated from Nottingham High School in Syracuse. I went to college in Miami, Florida for a couple of years, and then came back to Syracuse and got married. And I finished up my college at Syracuse University. And then when we moved to the Rochester area, I went to graduate school at the University of Rochester.
So you finished school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you finish school yet?
What?
You finished school yet?
Did you attend religious school when you were a kid?
Yes.
What was your experience?
We went. It was funny. We would go from our school, from our elementary and kind of junior high school, up to the Hebrew school by taxi. Taxi would come to our school and pick us up. There was only like 4 of us from the school that would do that. It was kind of like in your school where they all were many Jewish families. And went there and completed studies through my bar mitzvah, and then I didn't go anymore.
Okay. Did you have brothers or sisters?
Mm-hmm. I have one older brother and 2 younger sisters.
What were they like?
What were they like?
Yeah, what were they?
Start with my brother. Well, my brother was about 3 years older than I was. We had a lot of different things that we did, so it wasn't like we didn't hang out a lot as we were growing up. Because he was actually 3 years older, so we had different sets of friends. I was probably closer to my sister, Gail.
What was your brother's name?
Stuart. And then my sister Gail. We were close in age. We were about a year apart in age. And then my sister Rhonda. I probably did more things with my younger sisters growing up than I did. Because he went into the service after he graduated from high school, and at that time I was actually just like in 9th grade. So all through my senior high school years, wasn't around. And that was good because then I got the room to myself.
When and where were your parents born?
Both of my parents were born in Syracuse. And I think I could look at here, but I'm pretty sure my mother was born in 1921 or 2, was it?
I want to say 22.
22, and I think my father was born in 1921. Both in Syracuse.
Do you remember what day you looked like?
Yes.
But this is a good thing to try and do.
Huh?
Could you draw a picture?
Did I draw a picture? I should have brought a picture. My dad was about my height and had dark hair and dark complexion. And, no, well, he used glasses later in life to read, but he really didn't wear glasses at all. And my mother was a lot different in terms of her physical appearance. She was light complexion and light hair. It's probably where you got your blue eyes from. She had blue eyes, and both were rather short, small people.
You've met great grandma Davis. You met her before she passed away.
Or you? Or, so these are your parents?
Correct.
Right here? These are your grandparents?
Yeah, grandparents on my father's side, grandparents on my mother's side.
It's something that we have.
What was their occupation?
Occupation. My dad, all through his working life, was in the meat business, meat processing, meat packing. Worked in a different. Before I was born, he owned and operated a meat market. Sort of like. Like if you go into Redmond's to the meat counter and you see all the meat there, well, he had his own little store with one of his brothers. Then he went to
Stop
work-
kicking the table, please.
Then he went to work for actually my grandfather, my mother's family was also in the meat business. So all through his working life, he was in the meat business at one point or another. My mother didn't work for a lot of our growing up years until later, when all of her children got to be a little bit older, and she actually went to work for the city school district of Syracuse. She worked in like food service for one of the schools.
Charles Andrews.
Did your parents tell you?
Charles Andrews, then HW.
Did your parents ever tell you how they met?
I believe that, like I said, the minority communities, Jewish communities, was a minority community, by somebody that knew both my mother and my father introduced them, like a friend of the family. And because my dad didn't look like a typical, whatever it meant, Jewish boy. He was like rather dark complected and looked like him. There was a big controversy at the time when they started to date because my mother's mother, my grandmother, was sure that she was running around with some non-Jewish boy. But then I got that straightened out and it was all set.
You were with the National Guard.
Yeah. Spent 6 months in New Jersey at Fort Dix, Army base there. And then I came home. I joined the National Guard because at that time when I joined, which was like in the fall of 1969, there was an enormous amount of guys, young guys, who were being drafted into service to go to Vietnam. And it wasn't like today. Today there's no draft, you know. If you want to go in the military, you can go in the military if you want to enlist and go in. But back in the Vietnam War era, you could also enlist, but there were what they call draft. You could get drafted into the service. So I preferred not to get drafted in the
So you just enlisted?
Yeah, in the National Guard. Of course, you know, there was a long commitment. You had to be there. You had to be involved in the Guard for 6 years. You had to go to monthly meetings at a building called the Army, where, and then once a year in the summer you had to go to what was called Fort Drum in Watertown. It was just, for 2 weeks of maneuvers, what they call it.
You enlisted the year before Dad was born. So, were you in the Army when you were born?
Yeah, I was in the National Guard. In fact, I was in Camp Drum on the weekend for a weekend drill. We go up not only in the summer for 2 weeks straight, but we go up one weekend in the fall to what they you have to qualify on all the weapons. So you have to go to all the rifle ranges and grenades and stuff like that. Nana was pregnant with your dad, and she was actually staying at her parents' house that weekend because it was, guess what, September. I got a call that your dad was in the process of being born. So I came home, got to the hospital in my Army uniform, and so your dad being born on that day, it was a Saturday morning, I got out of the weekend room.
Okay. Are your grandparents still alive?
My grandparents are not still alive, no.
Do you remember your grandparents?
Yes, I do. I never met my grandfather on my father's side. He was killed in a truck accident a few days after my parents actually got married, and a few days later this truck accident happened. So I didn't ever met him, but my grandmother Davis and my grandparents, families, I knew very well. Yeah, we used to live in the same house with my mother's parents. It was a two-family house. They lived upstairs and we lived downstairs.
Okay. Do you recall any stories about your grandpa?
Do I recall any stories? Well, my grandfather on my mother's side owned a meat packing company, and I used to go there a lot. I used to go there a lot and spend time there on weekends because there used to be auctions on Friday night that we'd go to in a small town called Auburn, which was a little ways outside of Syracuse. And then those animals were brought back to the slaughterhouse, and I used to go and help there with them.
Daddy and the man.
Huh?
Daddy and the man.
Yeah?
What did they look like?
Well, my grandmother on my mother's side was a very little lady, but you didn't want to cross her because she knew how to handle herself. And actually my grandfather on my mother's side, Morris family, was a big, sort of a tall guy. And, like in a lot of communities, they had nicknames for different people. My grandfather was always referred to as the White Jew because he had this, even as a young man, not even when he got older, he had very light blonde hair, and then as he got older, it turned really white. And my grandmother Davis, who I spent a lot of time in her house. We lived pretty close to each other. Like I said, my grandparents, we lived downstairs from them, but we lived 10 minutes from 10-minute walking. So it's rough than that if you were driving. But we either walk or ride our bikes over to my grandmother Davis's house a lot. She was very good. She was small. She was very dark complected, dark hair.
So we have tall genes somewhere running through our family?
I wouldn't say outrageously tall, but I'd say my grandfather was probably 5'10". I have cousins like Robert Finkel is son of my mother's sister, Thelma. He's like well over 6 feet. And
6'7".
no,
6'7".
he's not 6'7". Probably 6'1", 6'2", maybe. We used to go to the movies with Robert, my brother and I, and Robert was younger than my brother, and you pay a certain amount if you were a child, and anyway, because Robert was so tall, they'd always say, he had to pay the higher fee. But yeah, we had some. It doesn't come out too often.
No.
Okay. Did you hear any stories about your great-grandparents?
My great-grandparents? No, I didn't. No, they. No, I don't know anything about my great-grandparents. They would be the parents of my grandparents, and they either had already passed away by the time my grandparents came to this country, or didn't get out of Eastern Europe when we got there, yes.
Did you?
No.
When you were a child, who was the oldest person in your family? I'm guessing still.
When I was a child,
Yeah.
who was the oldest person in my family? My brother. My brother Stuart. Is that what you mean?
I think the oldest living relative.
Oldest living relative. Well, you never really knew how old some of the relatives were because when they came over to this country, it wasn't like they had their birth certificates or social security cards, which didn't exist, obviously, in those days. That's the creation of our country. So it would have to be, I got a feeling it was some of my great uncles who were the brothers of my grandmother Davis. These guys here, Jake and Martin, and one of these three guys probably were, of course, he died before I was born, so I'd say either Jake Davis or Martin Davis.
Do you have relatives other than your immediate?
Zach, I can't hear one word you're saying.
Did any of your relatives other than your immediate family live in? Yes.
No. My grandparents lived upstairs with us in a separate house. We don't see them in modern day, in our day here, where there was actually two family houses. There'd be a full house and then another.
So it's like a whole separate other house?
Yeah. Two family houses. You'll see them in older cities. If you go into Rochester or into Syracuse, I can show you two family houses. But you're not going to see any in Bologna or Canisius or any place like that. But,
Did you see them a lot?
oh yeah. The street I lived on, I grew up on, was packed with two family houses. And there were lots and lots of relatives who lived in those houses, like aunt and uncles and grandparents.
Do you remember who your neighbors were when you were a child?
Yeah, I do briefly. I can't remember what their names were, but there were some people living across the street from us that were also from Eastern Europe. They were immigrants. And then there were some families living on both sides of us that we got to be friends with. I think one of the families' name was Zimmerman, and I can't remember the
Okay. Did you have Jewish neighbors when you were a child?
Yes.
Those ones across the street.
Yeah, and next door for a while, people would move in and out, but our neighborhood growing up was probably 50%. It'd be like if on your street right now, on Washington Street in Livonia, if maybe like half the people were Jewish, which of course that's not the case, but that's the type of environment that I grew up in, where about half the families were Jewish.
Did you ever play with them?
Yeah.
Did your family have family traditions that were related to the celebration of Jewish holidays or any other occasion?
Yeah. We'd always go to my grandmother Davis's for Passover. And she's the one who, my grandfather, Samuel Davis, he's the one who got killed in a car accident a couple of days after my parents were married. But she used to have the family over to her house for Passover, and we would always have the family over to our house for Thanksgiving.
Do you or any other member of your family have items, toys, or traditions, physical items that were handed down to you or them in several generations?
Mostly the things from my mother's house that were handed down to her and then handed down to like my generation are pretty much stuff that my sisters have more than I have, just because I wasn't interested in, little China or wine glasses and stuff like that. You got to visit my sister Gail.
Oh yeah.
And I have another sister, Rhonda. Another sister, Rhonda, who lives in Syracuse. So I have a few things that were my mother's.
Grandpa's desk. Grandpa's desk.
That's my father's desk. And there are some things from, and I can't remember which grandmother. There's some things of my grandmother's that I have. Just some dishes and things like that I know were my grandmother's because they weren't ours growing up. You kind of know what was in the house. But that's about it.
At what age did you leave home?
Which time? First time. Like 17.
Where did you move to?
I moved to an apartment still in Syracuse, near Syracuse University, and that was my own apartment. And then I moved in with a friend of mine, David Lerner. And then just before, and I did that for a few years actually, and then just before I actually had gotten married, I went back home to my parents, and then when I got married, I was done.
Did you serve in the military?
Yes. I was in the Army, National Guard.
What branch of service were you in?
Army National Guard.
What units were you part of?
It was an Army infantry unit. So training was running around with weapons, training on machine guns, rifles, hand grenades, stuff like that.
Okay.
What do you remember?
No.
What is your current occupation?
I work in a school district near Rochester, New York, and
Let me tell you why I felt this
big job. I work in what's called the People Services Department.
Besides the military thing, did you have Well, yeah. Did you have any other occupations in the past?
Lots of jobs, yeah. When I was young, my first actual job, I used to have a paper route. I used to go deliver papers, and probably made $10 or $12 a week, which was pretty good money at that time. You know, I'd save up and go on something. And I worked in grocery stores for a while, and then worked in for a friend of mine, father. We sold vending machines and snowmobiles. And then I had my own vending machine business where I used to go around and, put vending machines and snow machines in places that had, in bars and restaurants, and had pinball machines.